working room, cabinet.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, пані та панове, this is the seventh episode in the series of conversations and interviews with intellectuals in Ukraine for those out there who are keen to learn more, think deeper, and hear from the original sources. В етері сьомий випуск із серії розмов та інтерв'ю з інтелектуалами в Україні для тих, хто хоче дізнатися більше, думати глибше і чути з першоджерел. This is a project of PEN Ukraine, who are in Ukraine right now under the dark and chaotic conditions of the continuing Russian invasion. There are no words enough to express our admiration of their dedication and commitment. For the guys of PEN Ukraine, we are all Ukrainians who are fighting to defend their freedom today. Це проєкт ПЕН Україна, які зараз перебувають в Україні в темних і хаотичних умовах тривалого російського вторгнення. Не вистачає слів, щоб висловити наше захоплення колегами, їхньою самовідданістю і наполегливістю, тому що зараз ми усі українці, які боронять свою свободу. The project is co-hosted by PEN International, which has continued to provide a platform for freedom of expression for those currently under the highest risk. Our partners for today are PEN America, the Ukrainian Institute, the Ukrainian Institute London, the Harvard University Ukrainian Research Institute, Old Lion Publishing House, and the Harriman Institute at Columbia University. We are streaming today's event to all partners' Facebook pages. Співорганізатором проєкту є Міжнародний ПЕН, який продовжує надавати платформу для свободи вираження поглядів для тих, хто зараз знаходиться в групі найвищого ризику. Сьогодні нашими партнерами є PEN Америка, Український інститут Лондона, Український науково-дослідний інститут Гарвардського університету, видавництво Старого Лева та інститут Гаррімана при Колумбійському університеті. Ми транслюємо сьогоднішню подію на усі партнерські сторінки у Facebook. Захід відбувається англійською мовою. And our speakers today are those who can put the light on the humanitarian context of the ongoing situation. Professor Henry Marsh, an English neurosurgeon and a pioneer of neurosurgical advances in Ukraine. His widely acclaimed memoir, Do No Harm, Stories of Life, Death, and Brain Surgery, was published in 2014. The next one, Admissions, Life in Brain Surgery, was published in 2017. Professor Marsh has appointed Commander of the Order of British Empire, and his last piece, really enjoyed reading, titled Can Man Ever Build a Mind? Which is probably one of the topic of today's discussion, for sure. And this great friend of Ukraine is holding the conversation with Maryana Savka, Ukrainian poet, children's writer, literary critic, editor, and co-founder of Old Lion Publisher House in her civil life, but not nowadays. Those days, Maryana is an extremely efficient medical supplier to Kharkiv, to the eastern regions of Ukraine. But also she's painting, she's expressing her feelings through the painting, and I really hope that we can see some of them today. Henry, Maryana, stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maryana, good to see you. Hugs.
Henry.
Electronic, digital hugs. Yes.
Yes, so nice to have you.
Can you write at all? Can you write poetry in a time of war? Or has your mind gone silent?
Yes, it's strange, but I'm writing the poems. I wrote 4 poems, and all of them on Facebook is everybody can see it on my page. And some of them now is translated into English. Maybe I will find later. My friend Asphalt Melnichuk from Boston translated one of them.
So you're able to go on writing despite the war.
Yes, fortunately, yes. But I couldn't make music. I could not read. Absolutely could not read. But I can paint, and I made 4 paintings. It's my angels. All of these angels is angel of some Ukrainian cities: Kyiv, Kharkiv, Kherson and Mariupol. If you want, I can
Yes,
show
please,
you
yes,
this.
yes. Let's have a look. Yeah.
This is the newest. It's a Kherson. It's an
Mhm.
angel of Kherson, and
Yes.
here's the flag with this Ukraine. Kherson is Ukraine, because
Yeah.
maybe somebody don't know, but Kherson is Ukraine. So there is there is Kyiv, and you see the people in the shelter,
That's very good.
and this
Yeah.
angel,
Yeah.
its angel covered the shelter and these people. This is Kharkiv. It's my first angel. It's Kharkiv, and this burning Kharkiv, and this angel take this trying to survive this city. And I would love to say that a few days before the war, I visited Kharkiv. I had readings in Kharkiv, especially in the house of Shevelov. And I was talking with my friends in Kharkiv, how is their feelings before. Do you think it will be war or not? It will be aggression and invasion or not? And all of them told me, so we are not afraid. It will not be an invasion. We don't believe in it. And I still didn't believe in it also. And there is my maybe more tragic angel. It's Mariupol, and you know what is now with our Mariupol. It's horrible. It's absolutely destroyed city, and it's most people who was died in this war. It's from Mariupol, and more than 2,000 people, just only citizens of the city. It's not army. It's just simple people.
I think most people in the West did not expect Putin to invade. It was just so wrong, so evil, so not mad, but wrong, you know. So people often ask me, because they know I know about Ukraine, they say, you know, Putin, surely Putin is mad. And I say, no, he's not mad. He's Russian, and he is ignorant. He's he doesn't have the facts. It is a classical problem with dictators like Hitler, like Stalin. People will only dare to tell them what they think the dictator wants to hear. So I'm sure, we all think, Putin thought his army would be welcomed in Ukraine, and he would drive in to Kiev like Hitler driving into Prague, or Khrushchev driving also into Prague. But of course, he was completely wrong, utterly and completely wrong. And if he'd asked me, which he should have done, I would have said, don't do it. The Ukrainians are going to fight. And that's exactly what's happened, with tragic, terrible consequences. I feel completely useless and helpless. I'm doing what little I can. I've been working with a very famous English surgeon called David Knott, who has a strange specialty of war surgery. He has been in just about every war zone for the last 30 years. And war surgery is different. You're dealing with blast injuries, terrible burns, all sorts of injuries you do not see in peacetime. And I've helped him with that. He's produced a video and a webinar for Ukrainian doctors, which I hope they will not need to use. But of course, in Mariupol, Kharkiv, and Chernihiv, that is happening. I can't write at the moment. I've written a third book, which will be published in September. And I wanted to add, there's quite a lot about Ukraine, in it, but I wrote it some months ago. And usually I write every day about what is happening. At the moment, I can't. I'm lost for words. What is going on is so terrible that I find I can scarcely write at all.
Oh, yes. Henry, I think all the people in the world, all the people which is healthy with this mental health, couldn't imagine how it's possible. So, because yes, it's absolutely wrong, and it's about a big evil, and it's against all our values.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's the same. People in the different country feel the same. We all of us, we feel that's not only fear. We feel some other feelings, of course. The first, we feel the big anger, because all of them, we feel the huge anger against these people who do in so wrong way, and who's bombing and killing us and our people here in Ukraine. But I think all of us knew that Putin is the sick person, and nobody in this world, for now, cannot delete this person, cannot cancel, cannot kill him. But it's absolutely everything what we need, because this person is distracting all the system of the world, and is a very dangerous person. But I think that he is not one person, and in this moment he made this tragedy not only in Ukraine. We have tragedy of all of the world, because we staying on the maybe it's a first step to the third world war. And we see their situation when the biggest countries and politics, the biggest countries who all this time was fighting for the first position in the world, had so many weapons in the countries. But this weapon is not, how to say, it's not working here, because just to have this weapon, it's not about to have the possibility to survive this country and to help to this country. I want to say a big thank you for all people in all of the countries who help us and who are trying to survive each of people, each of human in this country, and who has who becoming a new home for our refugees. It's very important for us. I would love to say that Lviv became very crowded. I live in the western city of Ukraine, and I see the situation from the west of Ukraine. So Lviv is a hub from most refugees moving to the west. In Lviv, at first, almost of all restaurants and shops were closed, but now it's open because we see a lot of people, and these people have needs, and it's huge number of people. Lviv rail station is like a giant anthill with sounds and sounds, refugees and hundreds volunteers trying to help people. near the station, we have the buses, and all the time, constantly, these buses pick up the people and take them to the border of Ukraine, to Poland. And Poland, it's our big support, and our very good partner, and very strong neighbor, and we very thankful for Poland, because it's very strong position for us to have this neighbor, because from the other side we have another neighbor. So here in Lviv, in the safe city, we're trying to stop the humanitarian catastrophe. We settle people, send them abroad to collect medicine, food, clothes, and send them to the cities, these bombed cities. We work with thousands of children who cannot recover from this from this nightmare. Ukraine works as one organized organism. All of us try to do much as possible, everything what we can do. So personally, I work like volunteer, and it began from the call from Kharkiv, from my partner from Kharkiv print factory. And then he gave me the first list of medicine, and it was medicine for wounded people, and we started to work. So we organized like a group of volunteers from our publishing house, and we're trying to get this medicine from different cities in Ukraine, and from Lviv, and from abroad also. So we opened our bookstores in Lviv, and we understood it's very important for people, because there they have this like book shelter, like place where they can be hugged, the place when he can sit and drink a coffee and just feel that they're safe. So most of our my employees in a publishing house working most in like volunteers, some of them in the army, some of them in this territory, this word, in the cities. It's like a city, you know, this city guard.
Yeah.
So, and we donated a lot of money to this Return Life Foundation, Повернись живим, come back alive. And also we were trying to help people who want to read, and we opened a lot of electronic versions of our books, and we see that people downloaded, maybe it's more than 30,000 download for this two weeks. It's a big number. So in this case, we trying to stand with Ukraine, and to keep calm, of course, and to keep our position. And we very thankful for different publishing houses and publishers from abroad who support us, and who are ready to publish our books for Ukrainian children's. And we are making these cooperations, and it's very good in this so hard, so difficult, but in so important time for all of the world.
one of the, I mean, it's the, whatever happens to the war, there are going to be so many long-term consequences to it. And one of the ones I find most distressing is the psychological damage done to all the children. It's very hard to think it will do them anything other than harm. And that's terribly sad, let alone all the devastation of the infrastructure in Ukraine. It will take years and years to rebuild Ukraine now. And the hatred of Russia and the Russians will probably go on forever, for hundreds of years. It's, I mean, I would be sad. There are good Russians, even though so many Russians choose to believe Putin or cannot dare to realize how much they're being lied to. But at the end of the Second World War, many people said the only good German is a dead German. And I hope that philosophy does not become too widespread in Ukraine, although I quite understand it. Because Putin will go one day, sooner the better, and there'll be a Russia afterwards. And there are some good Russians, I hope. But just as it's so difficult, well, we know what will happen in Ukraine. Thanks to Putin, Ukraine is now a completely united nation. It had many problems and splits and differences before, but now we know for certain Putin has welded it into a single nation, which is an extraordinary achievement. But what will happen in Russia? No idea. No idea at all.
I think, yes, Putin and Russian military troops took the life from many of people here, but we stay strong and we became a nation, not only people. Not only people, and Putin had absolutely different imagination about Ukraine people. He was very wrong with this.
Completely,
and maybe he was blind.
Wrong. Yes.
He was completely blind with this.
Yes.
And now we have this situation when all of people from different part of Ukraine, east and west, eastern cities and western cities, find this connection, and we know for what we are staying and standing. But this Russian people in Russia, I think they didn't understand yet what happened with them. And the Putin took the fate of these people. He maybe destituted these people there, and now it's like you write for 100 years. It's not for now. It's for long time, and it will be very, very hard to return the name of human for this country.
Indeed. I mean, there is we say in English, there is a stain, a blood stain on all Russians, whether they are guilty or not.
Yes.
And that's a little blood guilt, and that will take a long time to go away. And again, when the war is finished, whatever happens, Russia is still stuck with all the sanctions and the international pressure. So I don't know.
We know that Hitler wanted to help German people during Secondary War.
Yeah.
And maybe in that time there no information resource they didn't have this information resource, it was possible to maybe to do what Hitler did with this country and with their Jewish people, because many countries didn't know about this. It didn't know about this situation, but now all of us, we know it, and we can see it. We can see it online, in stream, and it's crazy. But all the time they're telling this fake information, and all the world knows that there is a fake, and about it's for whom this information? Just for Russians. It is poor people, because many years they live inside of this bullshit, inside of this fake. It's horrible. This make them crazy and make them sick.
It's interesting to think what will happen, because inevitably when the Russian army goes back to Russia, and it'll be much more difficult for Russian people to go like that. But I don't know, it's interesting. Will they suddenly realize they have been lied to from start to finish? Or will they find that so horrifying that they choose not to believe it, and they'll believe even more lies? And they'll believe the Ukrainians destroyed their own cities, you know. But they inevitably will see, and thousands of Russian soldiers have been killed. So it'll be difficult for Putin to hide all that. Again, I don't know what will happen, but it's very strange. Now, Hitler had a plan. He wanted to fill all of Ukraine and Western Russia with German farmers and kill all the Jews and kill all the Slavs. So there was a sort of evil, but there was a sort of plan. But what is Putin's plan? Putin's plan is just to maintain himself in power with his kleptocratic friends. It's really not in the interests of Russian people at all. In fact, Putin and his gang have been ripping off, stealing from the Russian people for the last 20 or 30 years. And of course, here it is difficult for me as an Englishman, because the British government has been helping the Russian oligarchs. The City of London has been laundering all their money. And the British government, to my intense shame, has been very reluctant to take in Ukrainian refugees. And yet, within 24 hours of the government starting a scheme for Ukrainian refugees, 100,000 British people said, we want to have Ukrainian refugees in our home. And within 24 hours of a charitable appeal for Ukraine, $130 million was raised in 24 hours, just some ordinary people. So there is the British government is completely out of step with public opinion. Only now, at long last, the government, rather reluctantly, is taking action against the Russian oligarchs who have been paying millions of dollars to the Conservative Party over the years. But so this is a big change now. This will not happen again, but it's still disgusting that it happened in the first place. There are going to be so many consequences of this all over the world. Disaster for Ukraine, but there may be some good elsewhere coming out of it. On the other hand, it might all be bad, and more money will be spent on guns and weapons. Germany is now rearming. Climate change will be forgotten, and yet it continues. So But at least everybody now understands the nature of Putin and his regime. Many people in Ukraine understood it. I think I can claim I understood it because I've read all the books about it, like Catherine Belton's book on Putin and his people. But now I think all over the world, people understand the dictatorial, fascist nature of Putin's government.
Yes, I agree. And all this time, Europe also was feeding the monster and all this for oligarchs because they had very good life.
Yeah. And they bought all the most expensive houses in London,
Yes.
which now at last have been seized is the word, but what that will mean later, I don't know.
And in one moment, everything changed.
Yes,
And
exactly.
for the one side, it's horrible. It's evil. It's very painful. From the other side, maybe it's good that something changed.
Exactly.
Finally changed.
What worries me is that
You're surgeon.
Yeah. What worries me is the enormous surge of goodwill towards Ukraine will weaken, and Ukraine will be left a united country, maybe without Crimea, without Luhansk and Donetsk, but free and united, but ruined. And it will take a long, long time to rebuild it. And that will cost a lot of money at a time of disastrous rising commodity prices, rising energy prices. All the governments will be struggling because there'll be bread riots and all sorts of problems. So it's frightening, very frightening. But as you say, at least it's something's broken. You know, the dishonesty, at least now we know where we are, which is sort of progress. That terrible cliche, every difficulty is an opportunity. But Ukraine has paid the price for the free world.
Yes, it's a very high price.
And I'm so angry about that Ukraine is paying the price. I'm afraid I think NATO is right not to have a no-fly zone. I think the risk of it turning into a nuclear war is too great. But Ukraine, therefore, is paying in blood for the rest of the world. And I will do everything I can in whatever time I've left to continually remind the world of that we all owe Ukraine a very, very big debt. And the problem with Putin has been partly the making of the Western world anyway, for having let him get away with his wicked behavior for so long.
I hope we will survive, but Putin not will be survived.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree more. May he go to hell as soon as possible. He cannot be very happy at the moment. But other than that,
I will be very happy in this moment if we pray for this. All Ukraine pray for this.
Of course.
But I agree with all of your words, and you know, Henry, that we have this situation when, in this moment, Ukraine is not invisible. Many years, Ukraine was invisible country.
Yes.
Invisible in the art, invisible in our books, in many and science, many branch of the everything, and because it was like, it was like subject. It was like object. No, we are subject, and everybody in abroad should know that the God of Ukrainians are God of freedom, just only freedom. We have our independence, and it's very, very important for each of us. And we will be and we will be fighting to the end. It's right. It's our trust. It's our truth, you know?
Well,
So it's very important for us. And now we are not invisible for each of us. It's very good and strong moment. We have a good writers, we have a good artists, we have very talented people here, but we want to be an equal rights in this world. We have this position. We have this right. We have Ukrainian independence 30 years. I remember the start of this independence. All our relatives has this deeply wounded from this Soviet Union and this Russian army also. And we remember this. We remember this present people and our killed relatives. We remember this, and now we see the story is a history is continue, and it's like new row of this history, and we see the point of the new row. It's burning Ukraine.
Well, as you know, I've been coming to Ukraine for 30 years, and I'd come back to England and say, look, guys, this is true. Ukraine is a really important country. Ukraine? Where's that? Isn't it part of Russia? No. And I'd give them a long lecture about why Ukraine was this incredibly important boundary between European liberalism and freedom and Russian Asiatic despotism. And because I'd studied Russian and Soviet politics at Oxford University before becoming a doctor and a brain surgeon, I promise you, it's not being clever looking backwards in retro. I knew this right from the start. And I saw it in the crazy medical system I found when I first went to Kiev in 1992. So it is extraordinary how, Ukraine is now, the very name Ukraine is now synonymous. It means the same as freedom and heroism and the fight for freedom. And that will never change, whatever happens. It is extraordinary how it has suddenly been elevated from nowhere, from obscurity, into being a coherent, real nation and an idea. And that is fantastic. And I'm so proud to be associated with Ukraine, even in a very minor, humble sort of way.
So I'm very proud that I have so brave and so nice friends everywhere, in Ukraine particularly, and first of all in Ukraine. I'm very proud that all of them are working in this for this victory until the victory. And for now, my friend and my author also, Andriy Tsapelienko, has a speech in American Congress. And as my author and our friends and Andriy's friends, Dorj Batu from United States, send many medicine and some military support to this tactic medicine. I don't know how to say this. And all of them support us. Many authors in Ukraine in different situations. Some of them in their bombed cities, in the shelters, and some of them are volunteers and making even this mask, маскувальні сітки. to say. So many of them try to do everything for this, and I hope that we will all together we will win. Maybe no-fly zone will be not possible for United States, because I understand the president of the United States, and because it's very hard decision, but we need, for the first and maybe more than no-fly zone, we need a weapon against this for the sky, to survive the sky. And I think to get this weapon possible, and to support us in this weapon possible, and we wait for this. And in the other case, you're right, we should survive our children from this big stress. We should do everything for the stress, the children, for children and women, and the people who many days were in the shelters and on the ground. And now we try to talk with children, and it's not easy, because now, you know, a little, for example, I accommodated for the family of one of our friends, you know him, one doctor from Kyiv. And his wife and his children were in shelter, and they listened to this bomb. And they live now in Lviv, and it's usual like everywhere, like maybe before the war, without bomb, without anything. But every night the children has this, they crying because they remember this, and they stressed. It is big stress for all of our children. And I know that we will have a long time of recovery, and I very hope that you, my very, very good friend, you support us with this also.
Now, Maryana, I have a literary problem, and I'd be interested in your advice. My 2 books have been big bestsellers in Russia, hundreds of thousands of copies sold. And they, before the war, they want to publish my 3rd book, and I've not yet signed the contract. By coincidence today, my literary agent has just written to me saying the contracts are ready to sign. Now, what should I do? If I sign the contract, any money I get, I will give to Ukrainian charity. But would it be better not to have the book published at all in Russia and say, yet? Or should I let the book be published in Russia and then give the money for charitable work in Ukraine? What do you think? I spoke to my friend Karlova Knausgard, the famous novelist, and said, you know, should we have a literary boycott of Russia? And he said, no, literature is more important than politics. What do you think?
Maybe you know, Henry, that your friend Michael Katakis.
He's cut it all off.
Yes.
He will not have any. This is a friend of ours who is the literary executor for the Ernest Hemingway estate.
Yes.
And he has said no Hemingway books can be published again in Russia.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, there are good Russians, and the books, I hope my books would make people better. You know, there's quite a lot about Ukraine in the new book. But yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I wish somebody would tell me. Most of my Ukrainian friends, you must say no, you know, the only good Russian is a dead Russian. But is a literary sanctions, or will a literary boycott do any good, or will it do more harm than good? I don't know.
I think
You know,
that's a very difficult question, and probably this is ongoing discussion to be rethought and, you know, discussed a lot of times. We can't have a clear answer to it right now. Maybe that's not, we can't put Maryana into a position to respond.
No, well, I suppose
I
need to
I
make a
just
decision.
say,
Do I sign
I
the
just say
contract
my
or not,
experience.
you know?
I just say about my experience. If you remember the case of publishing house, my publishing house, we have the big conflict and hate from the Ukrainian society when we sold the right to Russia for two.
I remember.
You remember?
Yeah.
And that time I was thinking that I did this for Russians to make them better.
Yeah, to civilize them. Yes.
Yes, but now I think it was wrong.
Right. That's interesting. No, I'm very interested to hear that.
Thank you.
But it's
Thank
up
you.
to you.
Yeah.
I'll think
You
about
can't put the responsibility on
No,
her.
no. I gather opinions. I'm a great believer in getting opinions. You know.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Henry, for your future-looking optics, your opinion and explanation on instinct mechanism in a condition of war and further. I think that's valuable nowadays to understand these things. Thank you, Maryana, for your testimonies, for your position and amazing angels. Can you show us Mariupol one more time?
Mariupol.
Yeah.
Mariupol.
Oh,
Here.
yeah. Those angels, which represent probably what and how Ukrainian intellectuals feel those days. Then through perception, you can see and feel more. Yes.
I want to say, sell this painting in Boston and to collect this money, and special for foundation Kharkiv with you.
Thank you so much for all what you're doing for Kharkiv, because as we can say, you are one of the biggest medical supplier now, and this is where Maryana dedicates all her time and all her commitment. Thank you both for the discussion on values and perception angle of propaganda war, and your ability to smile still. There are no words to explain what is going on indeed, but there are a lot of pain, worries, feelings, sometimes radical black and white, but also a space for some analytics. What we can take from today's conversation is deeper understanding and some answer about what can I do to help Ukraine now. We are grateful to our partners for today's event, Pan America, the Ukrainian Institute, the Ukrainian Institute London, the Harvard University Ukrainian Research Institute, Old Lion Publishing House, and the Harriman Institute at Columbia University, and for the cross-streaming service on all the partners' pages. Gratitude, of course, to Pan Ukraine, which continues to stand at the front lines in the name of freedom and truth. Pan International is proud to be a platform that supports freedom of expression. We don't always agree with each word said, but this is how freedom of expression works. And this is one of the biggest fights which is happening in Ukraine right now. Please follow our page to be informed about further events over the next weeks. The next episode will be broadcast on Saturday, 19th of March at 5 p.m. Kyiv time, 3 p.m. London time. Anna Vovchenko, literary translation from English and Spanish languages into Ukrainian, co-founder and program director of Europe Island Festival, will hold her dialogue with Slavenka Drakulic, Croatia, former Yugoslavia-born journalist and writer, whose books have been translated into many languages. Her best-known book is How We Survived Communism and Even Laughed. This is going to be an interesting conversation. Thank you, our great speakers. Thank you, our viewers. Follow our dialogues on war, share the stream, spread the word, and stand with Ukraine.
Thank you, Ola.
Maryana, see you soon.
Henry,
Lovely to see you.
hug you.
Hugs. Okay.
Love you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.